Good morning. I am so impressed with this crowd. I mean, really, look at all the programs that are coming to this small space and all the opportunities we have for expansion. Last week, the music and the crowd we had, and I'm sure next week is going to be just as great. And today, you just have me. But
You gonna sing?
you would not like that. I would not like that. So, I applaud you and the outreach and everything. I really am impressed. So last month when I spoke to you, we talked about the optimal living program and being in accord with the highest truth within us and living from that place. And one of the examples that I brought was of Peace Pilgrim. And you might remember that she dedicated herself, just completely led by Spirit, to walk this country until the very end of her life to promote peace. And during that time when I talked about her, you might remember there was an example where she was attacked by a young boy who was set off by a thunderstorm. And what impressed me about that and what I'm remembering today is she responded from her resources of peace from within. And she said how difficult it must be for him to become so disrupted simply because of a storm. I mean, I'm getting chills. And she faced him with such love and compassion that it was transformative. So that left me with asking myself the question, what led to her ability to be able to respond that way? And what qualities do I need to, just to foster and nurture in myself so that I can be that loving, peaceful presence as she is? And it seemed to me that she just had built such a core of peace and love and kindness. That's all she had to respond from. That was it. I am not there. Just talk to my family. But I'm working. I'm not giving up. So as I started to, walk with that, then I remembered that recently I'd seen somewhere on the internet this little story, and I found it. So this is it. It says, you're holding a cup of coffee, and someone bumps into you, making you spill the coffee everywhere. Why did you spill your coffee? Well, you say, because someone bumped me. No, you spilled coffee because that was what was in the cup. Whatever's inside the cup is what will come out. Therefore, when life comes along and shakes you, which it will, we know, whatever's inside of you will come out. It's easy to fake it and just until you get rattled, right? Until your ex-husband says something that just pushes buttons. He's not here today.
My choice.
I wouldn't have said that if he, or we'd be fighting. 30 years hasn't made a difference. I mean, but for me, it's an awareness of where I need to work. So I'll take responsibility. So if we fill ourselves with joy and gratefulness and peace and humility, that's what comes out when life pushes us. And we get to choose. It takes awareness, but we get to choose. So I started to walk with this, and I thought, I get to choose. I need to be aware of what I'm filling up my cup with, so that when life bumps me, how do I want to respond? So Along with this, a few years back, my daughter was creating her catering company, and she developed a company name and a letterhead. It's come so far since then, but just to brand her business. And she called her business Taproot. The taproot, she explained to me, is the main root of the plant that is the central concentration of the nutrients and strength for the plant. And her business focuses on whole organic foods and that are mostly delicious, but they're also wholesome. I was just telling the ladies before that, which this is my new best friend right here, because she told me I've lost a lot of weight. She said, I'm blessed with a basket on my doorstep almost every week of these meals. So, thank you, Meredith. So that's another piece, right? I mean, that when we make our choices, we're feeding the taproot within ourselves, consciousness as well as health. And they all play together, don't they? So shortly after she brought that idea to me, I was sitting in meditation one morning, and I was shown this image of a strong tree that was not only beautiful, a picture I almost had to stand up and say, was it the first song? There's this beautiful tree, but there's also a full presence underground. So Spirit was telling me that it not only was what shows to the outside important, but equally, it may be even more essential, is the part that's in the darkness. So I was told at that time that I was learning to walk in the dark. I was learning the skills to walk in the dark. So again, that question, what skills do I need? And the generosity of Spirit answered in a most wonderful way. I was stopping at the library really quickly to drop off, or no, I guess it was to pick up something that I had put on hold, and I took a minute to glance at the books that were on display. And here's this book, Learning to Walk in the Dark. And it's written by Barbara Brown Taylor, who's she is or was an Episcopal minister, and she worked in parish ministry for 15 years, and she quit because she became discouraged by what she calls full solar spirituality. And that is when people meet you with your dark times with, God will never give you more than you can handle. You just have to have faith. And not that, she said, those people were well-intentioned, but they'd come to the limits of their knowledge of what to give you. And so she began to explore skills for walking in the dark. And she proposes that we might consider not only seeking enlightenment, but endarkenment. She talks about darkness in numerous forms. She points out, as we all know, that Buddha, Christ, and Muhammad all spent times in the cave of darkness. And she says, whether it's a seed in the ground, a baby in the womb, or Jesus in the tomb, new life starts from darkness. Have any of you found that after a time of really dark occurrences or challenges or emotions in your life, that you've experienced growth from that? I hope so. I mean, it's always hard to see folks go through those things, but I've never seen it not result in a depth and a wisdom that maybe couldn't come any other way. So if you think about it, most of the things the deep lessons we learn come out of difficult experiences. To further define this, Taylor quotes from James Fowler's book, Stages of Faith. Hang on just a second. And in that book, Fowler defines the progression of faith from the first stages of fantasy-filled imitative faith on through literal faith, and then to the faith that becomes individuated as we become young adults. And he says plenty of people go that far and stop. And he says there is a fifth stage of faith, which even he finds harder and harder to define. The fifth stage of faith, he describes, moves into the time when we deal with the paradoxes and uncertainties in what we've sought to live in up to this point. Anybody? And you really come to those places in life that is, I remember when I lost my daughter, how could this be divine order? How could this be divine order? And then I came to a place where I said, if this isn't divine order, then nothing is. But it's a process. And so he talks about that fifth stage of faith where we move through those things. And he says, at this time, people experience the sacrament of defeat. I love that. It's not one of the 10. But the sacrament of defeat. And this is the time of endarkenment. This is what she's talking about. So we find ourselves feeling kind of lost and searching for our way again, even when we thought we had it. And I know the pain and the challenge that can bring, but it's also a time of opportunity. And I found it in my life to be a place where my faith has become personalized. And it's helped me as a minister to understand that every one of us has a different personalized faith, and it all needs to be respected and allowed and heard. So that's where I see we are in our taproot. That's where our taproot is formed. That concentration of whatever we focused on that brings us into the world as who we are. And I'm sure that if you think about it, you can see lots of examples of things that you do and do not want to see reflected in your own experience of the world. So again, this is a place where we choose to store the most valuable and precious nutrients to live by. And we have the choice to choose love. I mean, this is not new information, but I think we need to be reminded sometime. Like, what do I want my result to be? Just like for me, when I saw Peace Pilgrim's response to that boy, it's like, okay, I'd like to respond from that kind of peace. So what choices do I need to make? Along the way, we've probably already chosen honesty, integrity, loving kindness as core values. And many times, again, it's been the hurts of life and the betrayals that have helped us to see the value and to choose that for ourselves. Barbara Brown Taylor talks about being able to stay in the dark long enough to reap the blessings it brings. Tough one, isn't it? In physical life, we who live in urbanized areas, we almost never experience darkness. And she talks about this, and I have done it. Like, walk through your house at night, and you think it's dark, and the lights are off. But there's the computer light, and the charger for your phone, and the digital clock. There's no real darkness. So we seem to avoid that and it seems like it's for safety and for protection, and it is in the physical world. But let's make sure that we don't transfer that avoidance to our spiritual world. Sometimes things feel very dark and anxious, and sometimes we need professionals to help us through that, and I don't want to discount that. However, there is value in also being able to sit in those times of uncertainty, in those times of confusion. I tend to run away from them. I think most of us do. We turn on the TV, or we have something to eat, or we go overschedule ourselves, you know. But let's just bring awareness to that. And when we can, to just sit in the dark, to sit with those difficult feelings and emotions and ask them to bring their gifts. It's revolutionary to me how things can transform when you just ask. In Psalm 27, verse 13, wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen thine heart. Wait, I say. Sometimes we wait in the dark for the gift. Pema Chodron, a Buddhist teacher, defines it like this. She says, we're also busy constructing zones of safety that keep breaking down, that we hardly notice where all the suffering is coming from. We keep thinking the problem is out there, in the things that scare us, dark nights, dark thoughts, dark guests, dark emotions. If we could just defend ourselves better against those things we think, then surely we would feel more solid and secure. She says, but of course we are wrong about that, as experience proves again and again. The problem has less to do with what is out there than our resistance to finding out what is really out there. The suffering comes from our reluctance to learn to walk in the dark. I've experimented with this sitting in the dark, and I find it to be illuminating, which is, there's a paradox for you, right? So if you decide to experiment with this, I have some tools that you might want to try. Ask, what can I learn about this fear by staying with it a moment? Where do I feel this fear in my body? When have I felt this way before? What am I afraid is going to happen to me? What helps me to stay conscious even when I'm afraid? What helps? What have I learned in the dark that I could not have learned in the light? If we go back and ponder the root of the plant life, we can see that the dark and the light are both necessary for the plant to grow and to come to fruition. Consider for a moment if this is true for your growth. Could learning to walk in the dark benefit your life and personal growth, as well as the others you love? If we choose what to fill our cups with, then we have a better chance of being a positive energy for others, even by our mere presence. Are you willing to sit in the dark with your fears and sit in the dark with a friend who is challenged by fears? If you do, I think you may find, as I did, transformation comes. You strengthen that taproot, and what blossoms into your life will be fuller and more beautiful than before. As we expand our consciousness and we choose to fill our cup with peace and with love, with openness, We expand our ability to live as the light. And then we radiate a greater energy into this world. Namaste, my friends. Thank you. Let's settle ourselves for meditation now and just becoming very centered with your physical body, with your feet on the floor and your spine straight, and see a bright light illuminating from above. And that light spreads down through you. And that light also allows your roots to go deeper and deeper into the solidity, into the true foundation. So for a moment, look within and explore your taproot. What's already there? What have you already chosen? Community? Values? What values have you chosen? What truths are absolutely irrefutable in your being? Take a minute in the silence to explore and discover what you've already chosen. And now another moment. What do you want to strengthen? What do you want to add to the core of your being? It's all there. What do you want to shine a light on? What do you want to expand? Take a moment and explore that. And in this moment, with the strength and love and support of this community and your own divine self, resolve to choose those things and strengthen those things within your core. And just as that beautiful image that was up this morning with the tree, with all the colors and variety, know that all the good that you choose blossoms in the light. And so it is. Thank you.